Notre Dame fans, we are now there. We're at that moment that you have been waiting for all offseason, since the schedule was announced, since the schedule was re-announced. It's Notre Dame versus Clemson week. And today I want to talk a little bit about Brian Kelly's comments regarding this game and what this game actually means for Notre Dame, because unlike what Brian Kelly said today, where he pushed back with loose emoji on the notion of this being a measuring stick game, this is in fact a measuring stick game. He should embrace that. He should not have argued with Lou, nitpicked what he said, kind of gone after Lou a little bit and tried to make it seem like Lou is the one who said it was a measuring stick game when Brian Kelly didn't say that, which is technically true. But the fact is, Brian Kelly should have embraced the question that Lou asked. This is a measuring stick game for you. Here's some things that Coach Kelly said today, and I want to address why I think he continues to miss the boat in situations like this. And again, we're not just talking about rhetoric. We're talking about what we've seen on the field the last 11 years. And here's a quote from Coach Kelly. He says, "This game, it's not an end all for us. For us, we could win this game, but if you lose to Boston College, this game doesn't mean anything. We're still in pursuit of a conference championship. It's about steady play. It's about raising your level of compete on Saturdays." Now, here's where I think Coach Kelly starts to kind of go off the rails a little bit. He says it doesn't mean anything if they go and lose to Boston College. Last I checked, Notre Dame fans still talk all the time about the 1993 Notre Dame-Florida State game when they beat number one Florida State on their own field. That was a big game. Now, we're talking big picture here, all-time great game, right? You lose to BC the next week, that hurts your chance for a national championship. Notre Dame's in a different situation this year because they win that game. This isn't just about competing for an ACC championship. This is about competing for a national championship. When you look at your playoff resume, because in 1993, Notre Dame didn't have an opportunity to get that rematch because they didn't have an opportunity to go for a playoff. Had there been a playoff in 1993, Notre Dame would have been in it, and they would have had a chance to still go out and compete for a national championship, which ultimately is the goal at Notre Dame. Would an ACC title be nice? Of course. But an ACC title is just a part of the bigger picture, which is why you come to Notre Dame. Coach Kelly said the following: "It's about consistency and performance. Certainly, we're well on our way to checking that box. We've shown an incredible consistency as a football team of winning week in and week out." And that's where I think Coach Kelly, again, continues to miss it a little bit. And here's where he gets it wrong. He likes to talk about his team's record in recent seasons. And he should, because what Brian Kelly has done the last 4 seasons is something he deserves a great deal of praise for. Notre Dame is 39-6 the last 4 years. That's certainly not easy, especially when you consider what they were the 20 years before that. We're talking about a team that's gone 29-3. That's his new number he likes to throw out. During the summer, it's 33-6. Now it's 29-3 in the last 3 seasons, because he's looking at the 12-1 2018 season, the 11-2 season in 2019, and of course, Notre Dame's 6-0 start to the season. But again, that's not how you are evaluated at Notre Dame, because in your last 32 games, the 29-3, in the last Notre Dame's last 4 games against ranked opponents, they're 1-3. And their only win was last year over Navy. When you look at the 12 teams that they've currently played and defeated during their 12-game win streak, the combined win-loss record for those teams is 53-63. Of those 12 opponents, only 3 had a winning record: Virginia Tech, Navy, and Iowa State. That's not exactly a resume builder for all-time greatness at a place like Notre Dame. Does Brian Kelly deserve credit for that? Of course he does. He's done a lot of good things. But until he starts to embrace games like this and moments like this, something he's pushed back on for a very long time, he's never going to take Notre Dame to the level that the program is capable of being. And yes, it is capable of being there. Where he's brought the program now is not the end-all be-all. This is not the peak of what Notre Dame can do. And Brian Kelly needs to embrace this. And I don't understand why today's press conference was so contentious, why he was pushing back so much on what I thought were questions that were setting him up for opportunities to talk about how big of a moment this is for his team. And he took it as if he was being attacked. And I don't understand why he is so sensitive to that conversation. He needs to embrace the moment. This is a program-defining opportunity for you as a program. And if you go out there and win this game, not only does it have implications on your opportunity to win a ACC championship, it also has an opportunity to have an impact on your ability to go out and compete for a national championship, but it's also the kind of program-defining win that can help you start to get that 1 or 2 or 3 recruits a year that you need to get to that next level. And we've seen big wins in Notre Dame in the past has had that kind of impact. this is the kind of moment you're missing. Because, yes, you've had a lot of big wins during your tenure at Notre Dame. Brian Kelly's done a great job of eliminating the losses to Tulsa and Navy and Pitt and Louisville. We don't worry about those anymore. You feel like they're going to go out and beat those teams that they're supposed to beat. But at Notre Dame, the standard is still about winning championships. Think about what he said last year after Notre Dame lost to Michigan. Notre Dame lost 45-14 on the road to Michigan at a time in the season when if they went out, they had an opportunity to go out there and get to the playoff and have an opportunity to kind of overcome that loss to Georgia. And Brian Kelly said after that embarrassing loss, this is a direct quote, they win the month of November, the noise will change. All will be happy. No. This is the University of Notre Dame. This is one of the most storied programs in all of college football. This is arguably the most storied program in all of football. And your goal, your objective when you take this job should be win national championships, and it should be to thrive in games like this. And Brian Kelly has not thrived in games like this his entire tenure. Not really since 2012 has he really been in games like this and come out victorious, not against real quality teams. And I've talked about that in other opportunities. And this is another thing that it can be frustrating when you listen to Brian Kelly and the contentious nature of his press conference today. Look, you don't judge yourself on beating BC and beating Duke twice, which Notre Dame has done, and beating 2-5 Georgia Tech or 2-4 Florida State or 2-5 Louisville, 3-4 Pitt, 4-8 Stanford last year. No, you evaluate yourself on beating the best of the best, and Notre Dame has not done that. When you look at another quote that Coach Kelly said, he said, look, you're going to get the opportunities like this, and you want to win these games. There's no doubt. We can't be overly emotional about this football game and lose sight of the fact we've got 5 more games to play as well. There's a lot of football still left out. We can't empty the tank and say, hey, we beat Clemson, we've arrived. No, we haven't. We've got to take this game as an important game. It's the number 1 team in the country. You better play really well against a really good Clemson football team, and then get ready to move on and play a Boston College team on the road that's really good too. No. Boston College is not how you measure yourself. If you lose to Clemson and go beat Boston College, that's what nobody cares about. This is the game that people will evaluate you on. This is why you should have come to Notre Dame. This is why players come to Notre Dame. It's for games like this. And if Brian Kelly is just doing this as rhetoric with the media for whatever reason, then that's fine. But if he's taking the same mentality in with his football program, that's where you're going to find yourself getting beat, because you do need to take this and you do need to say, leave it all, empty the tank. You have to empty the tank. So are you telling me that you're going to go out and play Clemson and you're not going to leave it all out on the field? You better believe it. You better believe in 1988, Notre Dame emptied the tank when they played Miami. You better believe in 1993, you emptied the tank to play Florida State. Now, did it work out the next week? No, it didn't. But that's what great teams do. You don't think Alabama has emptied the tank in some of the big games they've played against LSU in recent seasons? You don't think they've emptied the tank in some of the games where they've had to play against Auburn with a chance to go to the SEC title on the line? You don't think Clemson's emptied the tank when they've had to play semifinal games against teams like Alabama, Notre Dame? You don't think they emptied the tank when they played Notre Dame, but then they recharge the battery and you go back out there and you handle it the next week? Because that's what championship programs do. That's the level that Brian Kelly needs to get this program to. And until he embraces games like this and accepts them for what they are, that doesn't mean you go into your locker room and say, guys, it's the biggest game of your life. But it is about embracing the energy, the opportunity, and using that opportunity to fuel your players to go out there and raise their level of play. Because to beat a team like Clemson, you have to be at your best. But if you don't understand the opportunity in front of you, then you're not going to be successful. And the fact is, this is not the kind of game that Brian Kelly has thrived in. And I know that they don't have Trevor Lawrence and they're missing several starters. This is still a very, very good Clemson team. This is still a tremendous opportunity for Notre Dame to go out there, get a win, and kind of say to the world, hey, we can play with and beat these teams. Because right now, Notre Dame's claim to fame as far as being a national title contender is what? We almost beat Georgia? We didn't lose to Alabama or Clemson as bad as Alabama lost to Clemson? No. You do it by winning these games. And that's the opportunity that's in front of Notre Dame. That's what Brian Kelly has to accept, and that's what the Notre Dame football team needs to go out there and do on Saturday.